Welcome to the Speak Your Truth podcast. I am your host, Jaya Rose. I am a brand growth coach specializing in storytelling, speaking, visibility, and attracting soul fans who say yes to your sacred work. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to be dropping 5 keys to attracting soul fans into your online business. And it's going to be super fun. You definitely want to have a pen and paper because some of this stuff you're going to want to come back to. I'm going to do my best to actually do some live coaching with you where I offer you some questions that you can gain clarity on. First, I just want to start out telling you what soul fans are. If you've never heard that expression, that may be because I made it up. It came from the idea of a super fan. And you maybe have heard this in online business. A lot of people talk about attracting super fans. And I love that. I think that's great too. The way that it's a little bit different is that it's really more about your magnetism and about people being attracted to you because of your story and because of ultimately the embodiment of your power and who you truly are. I think that Superfans covers a little more of the exterior or external parts of this, of building a community, of attracting people who buy from you. Again, nothing wrong with that. It's kind of the conversation between masculine and feminine. The idea of a soul fan is somebody who is magnetically attracted to you and your work. They support you. They follow you through pivots if you pivot, and they become people who ultimately will most likely buy from you, become your clients, but also they'll refer you, which is gold when it comes to your business, as we all know. So, a couple of the things that I love to think about in terms of soul fans is that this isn't, I don't call them leads. I don't call them prospects. I don't even really call them ideal clients. I call them soul fans. And if that resonates with you, then feel free to use it. And let's dive into the 5 keys to attracting these soul fans who are magnetically attracted to you and the work you do in the world. All right. So I listed out and I have it written on paper. This is fancy. Okay. And I'm going to be breaking this down for you. Again, I think you should write these things down and really look at, well, how deeply am I embodying these things? How clear am I? How am I showing up? So these are going to be great questions for you to answer. So the first thing, if y'all are familiar with my work at all, you will not be surprised when I tell you that number 1 is vision and values. So we cannot underestimate the value of vision. When you actually tell people your vision, they buy into your mission and your work on such a deeper level. It's also the thing that sets you apart. Nobody is going to have the exact same vision as you. And it really gives such a beautiful, unique flavor to your messaging, where it's not as much about, oh, I help X person do Y thing. It's much more about the vision you have for the world and how that is going to impact the people who you're working with. So the question would be, are they buying into your vision? Are you clearly stating what your vision is to your audience? And are they buying into it? Because this is alignment. This is alignment. And then values are also so important. So you can let me know. You can comment on the post on my Instagram or comment here and let me know, are you speaking your values clearly? And do people really know what you stand for? And this is something that gets overlooked a lot in business. I think that it's kind of old school, old paradigm business to say, oh, these things don't matter, right? Like, are you solving a problem would be the thing that they want to know from you. And my question is, do we align in our value system? Because I am personally at a place in my life where I'm not interested in paying my money to people who are not aligned with creating a more equitable world. who are not aligned with doing their anti-racism work, who aren't aligned that climate change is real and that it is our responsibility to change the narrative around consumerism and plastic, and that we're really taking responsibility for our lives and for the well-being of humanity as a whole. These things are integral in terms of what I believe. And honestly, I don't want to work with clients who aren't on that mission. I don't, because I'm in the business of elevating and amplifying a message. And if your message in some way counteracts those things or isn't promoting something that is meaningful in my eyes, it's harder for me to help you, honestly. So it's in the integrity of my work to have these values and to have people know what they are. Here I am stating them to you clearly. And maybe you're going to get off, get off of this podcast. Maybe you're going to be like, okay, no, Jaya is not for me. Well, good. Because that's clear, because you're never going to be a super fan if you're not aligned with my values. And that is the clarity that I want you to have around speaking to your audience. And it takes a level of trust for yourself and trust that people are still going to resonate with you. I know that a lot of newer entrepreneurs especially tend to have that question of like, well, I don't want to only talk to one person, or I don't want people to feel put off. And the reality is there is contrast, there is polarity. That is a reality in our universe, in our world, and it is actually better. It creates a safer space for everybody and a more potent space for your medicine to be delivered. Okay. Number two goes hand in hand with this. And this is going to be something you already know this. You'll be like, Jaya, I already know. But it's a clear message. So the question I have for you is, how clear is your message? Does your message speak to the people who need you most? Does it do a good job relaying what your medicine is and what the ultimate outcome of your work together will do? And if no, then that's okay. But know that that hinders people coming in. And I see a lot of people and I've even had people get on a sales call with me and they're like, oh, okay, yeah, I totally need to work on my messaging. I want to, get clear on my vision, all this stuff, totally important. Let me just make money first. Let me just attract a few clients and make some money. And then I'll work on these things with a professional who can help me. And I'm like, okay, you're not ready. You're not ready. That's okay. That's fine. That's where you are. But the reality is that if you're having a hard time attracting clients, it's a big reason is because you're not talking clearly to them. They don't even know you're talking to them. And you may not be standing out in a way that they're even able to see you. And I see so many sensitive women in particular doing this. Like, oh, well, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to put somebody else out. I don't want to leave somebody out. And I'm like, honey, speak to the people who need you most. Speak to the people who are going to benefit the most from your work. Tell them what you do. These things are so important. And so you can go back to the drawing board with your messaging. I have refined my messaging 82,000 times in the last 6 years. I've even pivoted my messaging. But what I have found to be really helpful, and I'll give you some homework, I'm going to give you lots of homework today, is that I want you, if you are not on TikTok already, I want you to create a TikTok account because you need to anyway. But if you already have, I want you to refine the message on there. See, TikTok gives you very few characters to use in your bio. It's obscene how you need to be so clear on your message with like 15 words or something. So you can go to my TikTok, which is Coach Jaya Rose, and check out what I have written there and model something similar, of course, in your niche. But I dare you, okay? I double dog dare you to be that clear, to be so clear that in one short sentence, I know that you're talking to me. or I know that you're not talking to me, but at least I have clarity. Your soul fans are attracted to your clarity. And that's why they're able to see themselves in you. This is super, super important. Okay. So messaging, also, the other thing is that simplify it. So this is one more tip I have around messaging. Dumb it down. People don't want to have to work. I love Story Brand, and I'm forgetting Miller. What's his name? Okay, you guys probably are yelling it at me right now. But anyway, he is brilliant in the way he teaches messaging. And he says that we actually use calories, and that there's a caloric output for having to figure something out. So when somebody's looking at your message and they're like, well, I don't know. Okay, that is too much brain power and they are lost. So, how can you speak more clearly, even if you're super spiritual? Because I get it, all that lingo. But what if you get on a news show? What if you're getting interviewed on Oprah's Super Soul Sunday and you want to appeal to a larger audience who really understands what you're doing? Let's speak to, actually, this is the one thing I'll say, like more people, but be specific about what it is and who it's for. Okay. All right. So number 3, I want to tell you is authenticity, but I also will tell you it's being heartfelt. So sometimes people have a hard time with authenticity, and it's like, well, I don't know if I'm nervous, am I being authentic if I'm nervous? Am I being authentic? Like, do I have to be crying to be authentic? Do I have to be vulnerable to be authentic? And I think there's a lot of questions around this. So I'm going to phrase it in the way of being heartfelt. I want you to think about the people who you are a soul fan of, who you're like, I just love them. I love their work. I want to support them. Like maybe you even consume their free content for so long that you're like, maybe I should just buy a digital course just to support them because their free content is so valuable to me. Okay, you're a soul fan. So what is one of the attributes? And I'm going to guess that one of them is that you feel connected on a heart level. So we've already understood the vision and the values and the message, and we know those are connected. But if you're not connected on a heart level, like an emotional level, that's going to be really hard to connect with people. So you've got to be willing to show these things. Does that mean that you have to tell everything? No, because I truly believe that authenticity looks different on everybody. Authenticity doesn't mean being loud. It doesn't even necessarily mean being bold. And it doesn't mean that you are taking up all the space either. There are really quiet people who come to me and say, I want to be, seen online. I want to attract more people. And that's great. You don't have to be super out there. What it's really more about being deep. And so I always love to say that the deeper we go within, the wider our message can travel. And that's what I mean by being heartfelt. So it's about understanding your own why. It's about doing the practices that bring you home to that truth so that you can relay that, whether it's through your words or whether it's through your energy. And as we all know, I know that I'm preaching to the choir right now, but you know that the first thing someone feels, and often the most long lasting and sustainable thing people feel around you, is your energy. They're not feeling moved just by your words. So remembering that being heartfelt and coming back to that grounded, centered space is so incredibly valuable, and waking up your soul fans so that you're really the one who can guide them. Okay, number 4, we are moving along here. Number 4 is another one that if you have followed any of my work on any of the platforms, you're not going to be surprised. I'm going to give you a moment to guess while I take a drink of my kombucha. So number 4 is your story. It's storytelling because I love storytelling so much. And I want you to reflect on a time that you have maybe been on the fence about somebody, that you were not completely sold. Maybe you didn't even really pay that much attention, but somehow you listened to their story and it changed everything. This has happened so many times for me, whether it's on TV, whether it's on a podcast or on social media. As soon as somebody starts sharing their story with me, I am in love. I drop into my heart. I feel compassion. I feel empathy, and I care. I care. So, storytelling is the fastest way to someone's heart and the fastest way to create trust. Because if somebody is caring about you, most likely they're also going to trust you. Now, I could do a whole episode on storytelling, and I often do. So, I won't dive into framework and lots of different storytelling tips, but more of just a prompt to remember this is the part of the stew. So if we're making stew, which I love to make stew, we need all of the ingredients. I love to think about how we need the salt, how we need the spice, how we need something a little sour. We need full spectrum. And in this day and age, to create a soulful brand that aligns with people who need your work, AKA soul fans, we need the full recipe. We need all of the ingredients. And your story is that ingredient that brings so much substance. It's like if you're making a rice stew and you have all the veggies and you have all this broth and you're like, it's just like liquidy. I don't know. I have a bunch of good stuff in there. And then you put half a cup of rice in that stew. And 20 minutes later, it's poofy and all the rice has cooked. Okay. That's your story. Your story fills in the gaps of where people have question about your authenticity, where they have question about where you came from, where they question your message and they don't know why you're the messenger for that message. They don't know if you're being authentic. It's literally going to fill in all those gaps. So I will ask you 1 through 10, how confident are you feeling about sharing stories inside of your brand? Okay. Reflect on that and then know that that is a place that is worth putting your time and energy. I always love to share that I am not a natural storyteller, which is kind of funny because now I teach storytelling and it's not because I was good at it. It's not at all because of that. It's because I had to overcome a fear of storytelling. I had to overcome the fear that it wasn't valuable, that my story didn't matter, that nobody was going to get it, the fear that I was just taking up space as I was sharing my story. And that's why I love to teach it now, because it's about mastery. It really is. It's about having a framework, knowing how to pick stories, and then just practicing. So whatever phase in that you're in, start there. And I also recommend, especially for messaging and for storytelling, to hire somebody. I have hired so many coaches to help me with messaging. It's just really helpful to bounce your message off of someone else and allow them to give back to you in that way. That's what I love doing that with people. So reach out to me if you want help with your message or your story. Super, super important. Okay. So that's number 4. Number 5, y'all are going to love me. You're like, you might not love me. 1, because it's kind of boring, but it works. It works. Okay. And it is about being committed. But I want to give you a new angle on this. It's not just being committed and being consistent, like being scheduled. Okay. I don't schedule any of my social media content at all. So you don't have to be scheduled to be consistent. I want to give you a new take on this. It's really about being devoted to your mission. So when you go back to the top of what we just talked about, your vision, your values, your message, your authenticity, your story, when you're devoted from the top, or really it's like from the depths, then Being committed is much, much easier. If you feel like you're having to force yourself to show up, then I would question your relationship with your vision and your clarity of your message. And that's the thing. It's like when those things are clear and solid, it's more of a commitment to your message than it is a commitment to taking certain action or being consistent in a certain type of way. So I recommend that you sort of look at, well, where am I not being consistent? And I'll give you an example. Actually, my podcast is a great example. I took a year, actually 11 months off of this podcast because I could not be committed. I wasn't committed to it because I didn't have the bandwidth. And ultimately, I wasn't even ready to grow as much as what it could do for me, because podcasts, once you stick with them for over a year, they do really help your business grow. And I was just reaching that point. COVID happened. And like I said, I just didn't have the bandwidth. So I quit. And I will tell you that I went through a lot of emotional process to relaunch the podcast. And it's because I wasn't just saying, do I have the time? Like, do I have the 30 minutes to record the episode? Can I download it? Am I going to do the action steps? It's not about that. And I think that a lot of times when we talk about being consistent and being committed, we just think about the exterior action steps. But what I'm asking you to do is think about the internal process, because having the ability and knowing that that's what was coming up, knowing that actually the resistance I was feeling about committing to the podcast wasn't about the action of the podcast. It was about the potential of growth. It was about being seen. It was about being in front of a bigger audience. Like, there are so many fears and things that come up around what actually becomes possible when you are super clear on your message, your energy is rocking, and you know how to tell your story. You have an offer that you're selling. Like, what is there to stop you? And are you comfortable without one foot on the brake? There are many phases that I have not been comfortable there. I would say I'm still not comfortable fully on the gas, but I work every day on that, on allowing myself to move forward. And then the showing up is like a byproduct of that. And the showing up becomes much more powerful because it's from a deeply embodied and integrated place. And it's not filled with resistance. That is my take on commitment. I would love to know if that's helpful for you, because it is incredibly helpful for me to not just feel like I'm stuck in a box writing things out on a calendar. That to me just doesn't work. So I need to be internally motivated. And the way that I am internally motivated is by knowing why I'm doing what I'm doing, knowing that it matters, and then having the practices that help me come home to that on a daily basis. So what I would love for you to do is take a screenshot of this, post it in your stories, tag me, the Jaya Rose, on Instagram, and let me know, where are you? And actually the 1 through 10 that I just told you about, your story, how confident do you feel? Do it for each of these. 1 through 10, how clear are you on your vision and values? 1 through 10, how clear is your message? 1 through 10, how powerful do you feel being authentic and being heartfelt when you're sharing that message? And then how confident are you with your story? And how, 1 through 10, how committed are you to showing up consistently and recommitting and redevoting on a daily basis through practice? If you want the cake, or I guess the stew, we use stew, right? Okay. I kind of want cake more than stew right now, but if you want to eat the stew, you've got to put all the ingredients in. And if you identify where you don't have one of the ingredients, then you got to go to the store. So this is just, it's a clear way to look at it. It's not fluffy. I don't think it's all that sexy, but the reality is that your soul fans are attracted to you, not only because of your magnetism or your message, but also because of your leadership. And leadership requires clarity. And that's what I was hoping to deliver to you today. So please let me know, did you get anything out of this? If you had an aha moment, please do let me know. I would love to hear about it. And as always, I ask you to leave a review on the podcast if you have not already. It means so much to me. And of course, remember that your message, your story, your truth is medicine for the people who need it most. And it is not only an opportunity, but a responsibility to share it.